So can you see the PowerPoint all right in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. So as mentioned in the screen, inkjet print to book production and how easy we can make. That's what we're going to show you today. As you know, we are the finishing vendors, who we can provide all the finishing process like a cutting, folding, profit binding, saddle stitching, 3-knife trimming, die cutting, all those kind of finishing process. But today, we're going to focus on book production, how easy it can make. Firstly, today the theme is the inkjet printing. So inkjet printing or digital printing, taking pages from offset printing recently, or these maybe 10, 20 years. And then as a common method, it's been accepted. But as mentioned in the previous last session on the smart factory, finishing has been a little bit left aside, and then which we call last frontier. But the automated finishing is a key for success for inkjet printing more efficiently. So we want to drive that direction, today. So why invest for the inkjet printing or inkjet technology? That's all about a success, right? So it's not just to be a cool, it's a trend. That's not the reason. It's for the success and then gain the benefit from there. So let's review the current circumstances. As everybody has been struggling, it's difficult to keep or hire skilled operators because the skilled operator is getting older, and then the younger generation is hesitate to get in this industry. So it's a little bit difficult to hire or maintain skilled operator in the shop. And second, increase of labor and the material cost, because it's difficult to hire, and then it's the owner have to pay more for the labors, and at the same time, material cost like a paper, has been increasing. And next one is a price competition. This is actually going the opposite way. Even though the labor cost and the material cost are increasing, but the price competition is getting higher and higher. So the printers have to offer the lower price to the customers. And this is a common things, that the quick change of the market, because the market is changing rapidly and we have to adjust for the market. And lastly, it's a new one, but the COVID-19 situation, we are getting used to it, but it's actually called new normal. In the past, we can do more freely, but we have to adjust for the social distancing or, different way, for the COVID-19 situation. So all those things need to be considered for the successful business, but to save the labor or to be a cost efficiency, bringing a more automation and less labor, that's a key for the success. So first, let's review the conventional production process before we are going to the live presentation today, which we're going to show you the inline solution for more digital-oriented, production flow. In the past, or even today, the conventional way, the pre-press, press, and post-press, all are different division, and even difficult to communicate sometimes. So pre-press people is just throwing the job to the print, and then print people is throwing the job to the finishing. So sometimes, each division, there are many barriers, and then many labors and many touch points were involved. To just review, how many labors and then how many touch points are involved, we have put together some, animations to show you the idea how many, touch point and then labors are involved. Firstly, order taking, people need to, take order, and then one people is involved. And then plate making, when another people involved, and then the touch point is involved as well. And plates are made, and then after the plates are made, it will be delivered to the press division. So at the pre-press, three people are involved, and then 2 touch points. And then going to the press division, need to deliver the plate, and then set the plate on an offset press, and then run the job. Now we got 5 people involved, and then another touch point, so 3. After that, the job, a printed job, will be delivered to the post-press process. To produce perfect bound book, firstly, it will be folded as a signature. Okay, another people involved, and then touch points. And after the signature are made, it will be processed to the next step, which will be gathering or collating jobs. And then the job are set on the collator or gatherer, and then another people involved, and then touch points. After gathered and then created as a book block, it will be delivered to the profit binding process. Now, 8 people are involved and 8 touch points. Okay, the profit bound books are made, and then next process is 3-knife trimming. Okay, it will be delivered to the 3-knife trimming. Okay, books are loaded on a 3-knife trimmer, and then finish the book. After that, it will be delivered to the shipping and delivered to the customers. So those are the steps, required for the conventional production process. So number of people required is 9, and touch point are 12. So these are the conventional production process. But to run the digital job efficiently, such as variable job or short run job, with this process, it's not efficient. Like before, if we have 1,000 job or 10,000 job, and then this process was efficient, but now it's different. It needs to be streamlined, the workflow, or system need to be integrated together. And then people need to communicate each other more freely. That's the ideal way for efficient. And today, through the live demo, we are going to present the inline profit binding solution together with the Hunkeler unwinder, and for the inkjet press, we're going to use the SCREEN Truepress Jet 520 HD mono. And then for our finishing device, we're going to fold the signature with our folder, and then made a book block, and then perfect bound, and 3-knife trimming, all inline process. So we're going to run the 5 different variable job during the demo with minimum touch point and a minimum labor. So please pay attention to following points. The first, labor saving. We're going to use minimum labors during the demo. And second, the reduced touch point. It's actually almost start button to for the touch. And next one is a reduced turnaround time. We're going to produce 5 different jobs during the session. These are all different format and different thickness. So please pay attention how efficient we can run those jobs. Next one is the integrated workflow. we're going to collaborate with a screen, and then we're going to run with a streamline, integrated workflow using the IceLink technology. And lastly, quality check-in. Please pay attention to quality check-in. As an inline and less labor involved, but still, quality check-in is an important factor to produce the better book, right? So we want to, move the camera to the Colin. So over to you, Colin. Are you ready?
We can't hear Colin.
I'm standing here in front of our Inkjet Press Inline book production system. So as we promised, today we're going to be showing a live demonstration of our solution. So before we go into any real details, I think everybody wants to see some production first. Here you can see our Truepress Jet 520 HD mono, which is running inline with some Hunkler equipment into our smart binding system. So we're actually going to have our cameraman kind of follow the line for a little bit so you get an idea of what's going on, and I'll explain the details in just a little bit. So here you can see our sheets being cut, entering our buckle folder. After folding, our signatures enter our book block stacker BBS 40. Are delivered onto our buffering conveyor, and then the book blocks are set up onto our elevator EL480 to go to proper feeding height on our book block feeder 480. Now all of this we're going to go into more detail in just a little bit, but I want you to be able to see what's happening on our production floor. This space is called the print laboratory because it's where we design new systems, try new configurations, and also where we print all of the books and manuals that go out with our Horizon products. You may be able to see in the background, you may not, a robot feed book production system as well, which we have developed for true human-free book production. So you'll be able to see some of our books coming out of the delivery section of the BQ500 4-clamp perfect binder right now. And you'll be able to see those coming out onto our cooling conveyor belt as they wind their way up to the HT1000V 3-knife trimmer. And here comes our first book. Now, all of the jobs we're going to be doing today are going to be variable page count, variable finished format size, and all of this created in line with just a single operator. You'll remember when Taketsuga-san was giving the presentation before this, how Horizon is working hard to make sure that our customers can get the most out of their production floor space and their staff while still maintaining high productivity and cost-efficient production. And here we have our book being cut in 3 directions and exiting into the delivery section of the HT1000V. You may have noticed some QR codes on the floor here, and I promise I'll tell you a little bit more about those at the end of today's presentation. So let's go into a little bit more detail about our smart binding system. First and foremost, from our web over there on our Hunkler unwinder, all the way through to finishing, this entire production would have taken 9 people with your conventional process. However, today we were able to do that with just 1. This is our Peruvian mighty man, JP, who was able to do all of this with just the push of a single button. And that's really thanks to the benefits of our smart binding system, which begins right over here. So with the smart binding system, you get a myriad of benefits. The first is that you get to have a, reduced labor costs because you can do everything with just power of one person. You're also having a simplified workflow because everything is done in line. And of course, following from that is stable production. With our conventional workflow, you would have had up to 12 different touch points going from your blank sheet to finished book. With this, it's just one because everything is done, again, in line. Also, you're able to do variable page production with our smart binding system, which leads to reduced blank pages at the end of your book. Now, why do you want reduced pages at the end of your book? Well, number one, it's going to improve the appearance of the book. It's also going to lower the cost of paper and shipping because of the reduced weight. And it's also going to be able to reduce your overhead as a total. Now, all of that is thanks to the setup that we have here today, where we have a unwinder and a cutter capable of doing dynamic cut lengths for our web coming through. So depending on the length of the sheet that you're working with, you're going to want to change your folding pattern, change your imposition to get less blank sheets at the end of your book. Now, the way we're able to do that is every sheet, you should have something coming up on your screen in just a moment. Every sheet has a series of barcodes and unique barcodes and end marks printed, which allow our system to track everything coming through. So once our cut sheets exit the cutter and enter our AFV 566DF folder, we scan that barcode, which tells the folder what type of folding pattern to do. So this happens at very high speeds where we're able to switch from, say, 8 to 12 page signatures on the fly. I actually have a slow motion video, which I can show on your screen now, where we're able to catch our 8-page imposition coming through and then 12-page imposition coming through right after that. So we're going to let that play, and you should be able to see an 8-page imposition coming through right now, and then 12-page imposition coming through after that. Okay, I think that played through. We have a little bit of a time lag on our side, so I can't see what you're seeing, but I'm going to say that went perfectly. So how are we able to reduce the blank pages at the end of the book by changing that imposition? Well, you're able to do 8, 12, 16, and 18-page imposition. And I am not very good at mental math, but I have a little bit of an equation that I can put up on your screen now to help me explain. So let's say you're producing a 49-page book. If you're working with static sheet length and one folding pattern, you would have to have 3 signatures with 12-page imposition to get those 49 pages, but you would be left with 11 blank pages at the end of the book. However, with our dynamic folding system, you can reduce the number of blank pages by simply using, it would have been 5 signatures of 12 pages. By using 3 signatures of 12 pages and then having 2 signatures with an 8-page imposition to give you a maximum of 3 blank pages at the end of the book. So that's going to improve the appearance of your book. It's going to cut down on your paper costs and shipping costs by reducing the weight. And of course, it's going to just reduce your costs overall. So let's move on. After our sheets, our signatures are folded in our buckle folder, we have a sensor here at the exit, which is looking for any misskews or misfolds coming through the line. If we sense that anything is off on the signature, we reject that right away before it enters the next solution in the system. Remember I talked about those end sheet marks earlier? After we check our signature folding, we look for that end mark, which will tell the system that this is the last signature in a book block coming through. And once we pass through the next solution, to advance that entire book downstream. So we have our folded signatures come into the entrance of our book block stacker BBS40, and we use press stackers in order to remove any air to create a nice tight fold and give us a nice steady book block later on. So I mentioned that we may be rejecting signatures in case of something happening upstream. After our signatures enter the book block stacker, we have another barcode reader, which is scanning the unique barcode on every signature coming through, which allows us to track all of the paper moving through the system. If, while scanning, it notices that we're missing, say, signature number 3 of a 5-signature book block, it will be able to say, hey, something is wrong here, but I will finish collecting the signatures in the book block and then reject that book at the delivery section of the book block stacker. This allows us to easily create reprint data for later. Now, all of this is going through the tracking system that we have developed. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, these are all the different signatures that make up a book block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once we have collected those and scanned them, then we'll begin tracking by the book unit. So we can see that all of these books pass through, no problem. Later on in the demonstration, I'll show you how we're able to communicate with our upstream printing devices in order to track any sort of misprints coming through the line, reject them downstream, and then be able to create that reprint data. So once we have our signatures stacked in the book block stacker, they're jogged in all 4 directions, and we have 2 glue guns applying dot glue in the trim out section of the book block to make sure we have a nice, tightly jogged and stable book block coming through the system. Here we have a buffering conveyor. Let me get ahead of the camera here. Buffering conveyor that allows us to keep production in case we have any issues upstream. We can keep going down the line. So once our book blocks come through, they are lifted to feeding height on the elevator conveyor EL480. Once they're lifted up to height, at the entrance of our book block feeder 480, every book block is calipered for thickness. That thickness information is sent to the binder, which allows us to adjust the clamp width, the milling guides, the spine glue coverage, the nipper table height, the creasing position and registration on our cover feeder, and our nipper table height. I may have said that already. After we've calipered for thickness, we have another barcode reader, which is scanning the unique barcode on the top signature of the book block, and we use this for cover matching with our binder. If for whatever reason we're unable to read that barcode, the book is gently rejected into a reject tray on the side of the system. Once the book blocks enter the BQ504 clamp perfect binder, which is the latest addition to our perfect binding series, then we trim off that spine, apply glue, go through the cover feeder, which I'll show you later on, and then up the conveyor to our HT 1000V zero make ready 3-knife trimmer. What does zero make ready mean? It means that we use a barcode scanner to set up and change our positioning on the fly. That gives us the ability to not only go from A4 to A5 sizes on the fly, but variable thickness as well. So we're going to be running a couple of jobs for you right now, and I'm going to show you on our sample table what we have in store. So here we have a 128-page Christmas Carol book, a 256-page version of Grimm's Fairy Tales, a 352-page copy of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, one of my favorites, Mark Twain, a 144-page ruled notebook, and lastly, a 56-page brochure for the equipment that we're using today. Now, while we're using the Truepress Jet 520 HD mono to print our book contents, we're lucky enough to have a Konica Minolta AcurioPress C14000 on our demonstration floor, where we've been able to print all of the covers for today's demonstration. Okay, so we should be beginning production, and there you can see our machine. Okay, so I hear our presses starting up. So with our system, we're able to communicate with the jet inspection system on our SCREEN Truepress Jet printer. So let's say you have, I don't know, some sort of misprint or something spilled on the paper or a bad employee. Create a mark on your printed material. Now, on your conventional process, that's probably not going to get noticed, and that's going to ship out to your customer, which could lead to problems down the line. However, there's a high-speed scanner at the exit of the Truepress Jet, which will automatically sense that misprint and send the information to our tracking system. So here we can see our paper coming through, being cut. Each sheet is scanned to see the length and folding pattern. Folded in our buckle folder. Checked for any misfolds, checking our end marks. As you can see, we didn't even bother putting a reject tray down here because we know we're going to be creating good books for you today. And here we have our book being stacked. And I want you to notice our screen right here. We're tracking every sheet coming through, every signature coming through, looking at our past books. And we have something called included in failure line. That is the information sent over by the screen printer saying, hey, we've got something wrong with our printed material. Please reject that down the line. And there you can see the line that I mischievously placed on our signature earlier. So once we have our books coming through, you can see our ruled notebook coming along our conveyor here, buffering conveyor, entering the elevator conveyor, EL480, being lifted up to feeding height, where then it's going to scan, going to be calipered for thickness, and then scan to make sure we have the correct cover in our feeder. Now, we're going to have the cameraman go over to the cover feeder really quickly, where I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about some of our special features. So with our cover conveyor, in addition to be able to make 4 different crease lines for your corners and hinges, we also have an optional cover slitter section as well. This allows you to run with oversized cover sheets when doing variable thickness production. So what you would do is run with a cover sheet, which is large enough to accommodate your thickest book. And then when running thin books, that data would automatically be sent from the caliper to the slitting module, letting it know to cut the cover sheet down to the proper size. Okay, we can have our cameraman come back and check out the books coming through our delivery conveyor. Here we have our books coming through. As you can see, I believe this is about an A5 size finished notebook coming through. And then right after this, we're going to have our A4 size pamphlet coming through as well. As you can see, there's no stoppage in production when changing thickness or finished format size. So as our books are entering the HT1000V 3-knife trimmer, that barcode is getting scanned, and we're setting up, making all the adjustments on the fly. Let's take a look at the delivery section of our HT1000V. So I can't see your screen right now. I believe we're seeing books enter the delivery conveyor right now. I'm going to believe that. Okay. So let's bring the camera back over to me here. So as you can see, we have our finished product coming through. There is that pamphlet, our ruled line notebook. Let's see if I can get this out on time. Our Grimm's Fairy Tale. Just had another pamphlet come through as well. Now we were able to produce all of these variable page count, all these variable format size books with just a single operator. So I think, oh, one more thing I would like to tell you about, which I promised, these QR codes on the floor. These are actually guide marks for an automated guided vehicle, or AGV. And in our delivery section today, what we have is a newly developed system where our books are delivered into cartons, into boxes at the end of the conveyor, which can then be put onto a cart with wheels. That automated guided vehicle will follow the QR codes, pick up the full cart once it receives a signal, and then bring that over to the next step in the finishing process, whether that's packaging, inspection, or what have you. So I think that finishes our demonstration here on the floor. I'm going to bring Taketsugu-san back with me now.